depending on the content. The final rules come after the ministry in January 1st proposed that any piece of news that has been identified as false by the fact-checking unit of the Press Information Bureau, the PIB as it stands today, will not be allowed online. However, the final draft has removed the reference to the PIB. Now, every day in India, fake news havoc can be seen in various parts, almost on a daily basis. Fake news spreads fast, it can often create unrest and law and order situations. In that regard, it is absolutely a government's job to flag such content and even control its spread. Content that can be deemed problematic already includes things like misinformation, incitement of hate or religious discontent, undermining democracy, and items that can cause damage to an individual or organization's reputation. But the move to appoint a center body to fact-check news on the center government itself has been criticized, especially by some media bodies. So is this move the right one in the right direction, or is this in effect curtailing of freedom, whether of individuals to criticize the government or of the media? We'll take those questions to our guests in just a bit. First up, here's a little bit more of what has been announced. What is new as far as the IT rules are concerned? So a government-mandated body will now flag and label fake, patently false or misleading information about the government online. Social media intermediaries will lose their harbor immunity under these IT rules if they keep such flagged content online. So harbor immunity used to guarantee protection against illegal or false content, but that will not be the case anymore. Minister of State for the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has told CNN News18 that they will discuss whether this body will be a PIB body as it exists or a brand new, fresh new one. Now, some bodies have come out to criticize the government move. Editors Guild, for example, has said that this is a draconian rule and against principles of natural justice. They've also said that there is no mention of a governing mechanism, judicial oversight and right to appeal. News Broadcasters and Digital Association has said that this order will result in censorship of the press and that sweeping powers have been given to the PIB in this case. That is still as it stands. Coming up, we take all of those questions arising out of this move to the minister concerned himself. Union Minister of State, MOS Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Rajeev Chandrasekhar spoke exclusively to me on this issue. That chat is coming up. And also coming up after that, the big debate, a government body to fact-check news on itself. Is this a move that was needed? Is it in the right direction? Or is this something that needs to be objected? That's coming up in a bit. I want to begin by taking your view on the new fact-check ruling or notification that the government has come out with. You are suggesting there's going to be a new body that is going to be mandated with flagging misleading or fake content pertaining to the central government. I want to understand from you, is this going to be the existing PIB or are you looking at making a fresh body altogether?
Look, so first of all, Shivani, this fight against misinformation, this awareness of the risks of misinformation and patently false information was, in a sense, signaled in October 2022 when we came up with the amended IT rules. And in the amended IT rules, there were 9 types of content that were no-go areas for the social media intermediaries if they were to enjoy the safe harbor protection of Section 79. And there were 9 sections, and one of the sections was misinformation and patently false information. And there were other 8 categories, including CSAM, religious incitement. There were 8 or 9 categories of content that social media intermediaries could not host if they wanted the protection of Section 79. And it was clear that in matters of government, that given the government had all the information in its command, that there was a requirement by these intermediaries that they have expressed that they needed an independent fact checker from the government, because you cannot have an independent fact checker outside the government because they will not have the data of the government, to create a credible fact checking agency within the government that can then flag what is wrong, patently false, or misinformation. And so, therefore, we have notified that we will create such an organization. Now, whether it is going to be the PIB or it is going to be some new body, that is something that we will discuss and talk through and create. But what we are certainly interested in is to create a body that will be trusted by the social media intermediaries, that will operate in a manner that is transparent and credible. So we certainly don't want this to be anything like that panders to this narrative that our fight against misinformation is some attempt to free speech, which it is not. This is a clear and targeted set of measures that we have started taking last year to address the risks and dangers of misinformation and patently false information from beyond the borders, state actors, from within the borders, vested interests that challenge our objective of creating a safe and trusted internet.
Regardless of what you say, there are already attacks coming in that these are arbitrary and very, overpowering powers to the government, especially after a creation of such a body. And ultimately, it will have quote unquote a chilling effect. Would you like to address those issues that are already being raised?
No, those are, sorry to say that, but they are in a sense a lazy, uninformed response to what is very carefully designed approach to address the risks of misinformation without compromising the Article 19 rights to free speech. As a matter of fact, these rules, the IT rules, explicitly prescribe that no platform can ever violate any fundamental right of the citizens of India in explicit language, including Article 14, 19, and 21 of the Constitution. This is the first time that a government has put in its rules that the fundamental rights of any citizens cannot be violated by any social media platform, regardless of whether the social media platform is a foreign platform or an Indian platform. So we have actually taken care to say the fundamental rights will never be violated.
You are also saying that it will not be mandatory for platforms to take off the content that has been deemed misleading, fake, etc. by this government body. But if they choose to keep that content online, then they will have to face the law of the land. Am I correct?
Yeah, so this I need to explain this, Shivani, because I think it is a nuance that needs to be understood. The IT rules basically and the IT Act protects social media intermediaries from any legal case. They have an immunity from a legal case. So if you are disadvantaged or you are aggrieved by a content on the social media platform, you certainly cannot today file a case against the social media platform because they are protected by the IT Act Section 79. This IT rules basically says the following: if you want that protection and you don't want to be challenged by an aggrieved party, then you must exercise some due diligence under Rule 3. But if you choose not to exercise the due diligence, and that choice is yours, then certainly what happens is that the aggrieved party should have the right of natural justice against the intermediary that is carrying that fake information or misinformation, as the case may be. So that is all. There is no chilling effect. There is nothing that the government is doing that mandates them to respond to a fact-checking unit. All it says is, if you choose to continue to propagate a falsehood, if you choose to continue to propagate CSAM, if you choose to continue to propagate religious incitement content, if you choose to do that, it is your choice, but then the laws of the land will kick in and the right of natural justice to those that are aggrieved by that content will lie in a court of law. So this is very clear and it is extremely fair and it is absolutely welcomed by all intermediaries and indeed all stakeholders that are relevant on the internet, excepting, of course, for some opposition members who would rather have Section 66A and the emergency as their way of declaring their love for fundamental rights of Indian citizens.
But I do want one clarification, sir. This is for news pertaining to the central government. So what do you mean by other aggrieved parties? This is for one only referring to social media platforms, or is it for the press too?
No, look, today if a press journalist misreports, there are other aspects in law. They don't have to come to the IT Act for that. If you write something that is derogatory, false, misinformation about anybody in government or outside government, there are laws of the land that will be available for citizens to prosecute you or to approach you to get justice. But in terms of social media intermediaries, they are a peculiar class of intermediaries that have been given a blanket immunity under the IT Act. And we are only saying that when they choose to continue to carry information that aggrieve somebody, either a government or somebody in the private sector in the future, that the intermediary cannot say, look, I'm immune from prosecution, I'm immune from any legal cases because of Section 79. So all we are saying is, this is reciprocity. If you want the immunity from this thing, you have to show due diligence. If you don't want it, that is fine. You go to the court of law with those who are aggrieved by this. In this particular case, the government entity or a government body or a government ministry, and you decide, let the court of law decide whether you are right or whether the aggrieved party, the request for justice is declared legitimate by the court of law.
And that now applies to this new central government body as well.
Correct.
That they will ask social media platforms to remove the content.
They will not ask them to remove the content. They will only label content as being fake, patently false, or misinformation. The choice of retaining the content on the platform is the intermediaries. If they choose to keep the content on the platform, which is misinformation, then all that happens is the Section 79 protection or immunity that they have falls off.
Let me take that to the guest now joining us, because there has been already responses coming in that there is some chilling effect taking place in the country, that this is, of course, censorship of the media, the press could fall to the individuals in the line as well. So RP Singh of the BJP joining us, Advocate Mahima Singh of the Congress Party. I'm joined by NS Napinai, who's founder, Cyber Sathi Foundation, Arun Anand, consulting editor, First Post. Let me go across to Mahima Singh first. Mahima, is the Congress Party of the view that this move is wrong? Because the government is saying that they're only going to fact check information about the central government, which only a body of the central government can authoritatively say whether it is right or wrong. Do you find anything problematic with that, like some of the editorial bodies are saying today? Mahima ji, I think you've muted yourself.
Am I audible now, Shivani?
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening. I was saying that not only us, but every free-spirited and free-minded citizen of this country, including the Editors Guild of India that has written into the ministry, find that these amendments are draconian, just like they did with the farm laws. These amendments also have been brought in without, a discussion, a consultation with the stakeholders.
That's not true.
And that was one of the grounds why, allow me to complete my thought, please. That was one of the grounds why the amendments were needed to be taken back by the government in January when they were first released after the public input came in from the Editors Guild of India. And again, now what has happened is that the feedback from Editors Guild of India is that this is against the principle of natural justice, the concern that has been very much raised by the Supreme Court in the Media One judgment. And we know where we stand on Press Freedom Index as it is. We stand at 150 out of 180 countries on Press Freedom Index today. And I think it's a matter of concern today. If the government doesn't have faith in the independent, institutions who are already doing the job, then they might as well, have a mechanism, proper mechanism after due consultation.
Okay, so on the issue of due consultation, the minister is very categorical to say that consultation has happened. In fact, he's on record to say in that interview with me that
the editor...
One second. He's on record to say that actually social media intermediaries themselves express the need of a government fact checker so that they can rely on that fact checker instead of independent individual fact checkers. That's what the government's position is. But let Mr. R.P. Singh respond to the larger question.
Let me give a quick response.
Yes.
Quick response to that.
Yeah.
I will quote the Editors Guild of India. They say the ministry's notification of such draconian rules is therefore regrettable.
Yes.
The guild again urges the ministry to withdraw this notification and conduct consultations with media organizations.
Okay, so the stakeholders that I'm talking about is actually social media platforms, social media intermediaries that they have done this consultation with, because these rules actually affect social media intermediaries. They don't directly affect a media company.
So you rule out the concerns of Editors Guild of India. Is that what you're saying?
But the rule doesn't apply to the Editors Guild of India. That's what I'm saying, Mahima ji. I think I do want to make it clear to our viewers. Social platforms, social intermediaries, mean here bodies like Twitter and Facebook and others that publish other people's content. They had protections from legal cases under Section 79 of the IT rules, and those protections are now conditional. They are not sweeping protections. I'll come to that issue too, if that is effectively basically telling them that you need to follow the government's line or face court cases. But technically this rule doesn't apply to the media. What applies to the media, those rules are different. Yes, Mr. R.P. Singh? More and more, there are steps being taken by the IT ministry that seem to be basically suggesting that whatever information we don't like, we won't let it circulate. You look at what happened, for example, in the case of the BBC documentary. It was not banned in India, but its circulation was deemed illegal.
Okay, Shivani, this recent instance of what happened in Tamil Nadu about the migrant labours and how the complete issue flared up was all based on fake news itself, and country has faced that recently. And it's not I'm just quoting the very recent instance. There will be many more such instances where fake news can create problem in society, can create disharmony in society. And also, that's one part. But how can you misuse or misquote the government? I mean, that's the only point here, that government is saying don't misuse or misquote us. When you can do whatever you want to do on your platforms, you have all the right. But if we are being misquoted, we have right to fact check that and give you the right perspective, because we are the owner of the details or the facts of that subject. And we'll let you know the complete details, and thereafter is up to you to decide whether you still want to continue with that. You have all the right to continue with that, but only thing is that advantage which you get under Section 79, that you won't have that advantage, but you can still continue with that, or you can do the checking again. You can reprocess the complete detail, or you can put the right details to the people who are
but here's
coming
the
on your
question
platform.
that arises.
So, I don't know. Give me a second. Another second.
Go ahead.
Shivani, another second. The problem is the Congress they want to build up an ecosystem only on falsehood. Even Rahul Gandhi, when recently was asked in the parliament, if you are saying what you are saying is right, please sign that document as per the law. He refused. So,
which information?
The chairman, whichever he said, whichever he quoted in the parliament, whichever he was spewing in the parliament, wrong information, he was asked to sign those documents. He refused. He said no. That's why all those remarks were expunged. It's something like that. I mean, there are ways and modes and means. I mean, if you don't want to abide by that, it's up to you to decide. Then you face the legal processes. Only thing is that as for the newspaper or the channels, there are already rules and regulations which are set up for them.
Yeah, those are different.
And there are already, those are different. And there are processes, already check processes within the system. And if something goes beyond that, then people have right to go for defamation. You guys also put disclaimers nowadays before every debate that you don't stand by what I say. Don't you do that? Why do you do that? Because you don't want to be
Our channel doesn't do that, but I know that some do. Okay, fair enough. But my question was, and let me take that to Arun Anand. Mahima, I'll come back to you for your point. But Arun Anand, the question naturally that will arise is, if the government itself was to deem whatever is being published about the government itself as either misleading or fake or patently false, I can understand the aspect of patently false. Of course, they have the right to rebut. But if the government only starts doing it, is there not a danger that they will also trounce upon criticism of the government that they deem to be false or incorrect? That's the danger here.
No, I'll answer your question, Shivani, but first let me, because Mahimaji was raising this point time and again about the concern shown by the Editors Guild of India. So as a journalist, who has been in the profession for almost 3 decades and having, worked cutting across different places. So let me tell you, the Editors Guild of India is not the representative body of media. It's a biased body. It does not represent media. There was a time when Editors Guild of India was a representative body of media. That was in late 1990s, you can say. But since then, media has mushroomed, and also, if you look at the list of the so-called, functionaries of Editors Guild of India, they are all very well known, BJP betas. They're all very well known, Modi betas. So, Editors Guild of India, and they have been very biased in whenever they have taken stand on certain issues, and there are certain issues on which basically they have refused to take stand when it comes to people belonging to this side of the fence. So Editors Guild of India's concern matters nothing.
Okay.
What matters is basically because they don't represent the concern of the media. Now coming to your question, see, it's a very simple thing that if you are writing something wrong about somebody, whether it's a government body or it's a private body, they have the right to, send a rebuttal to you. And of course, if they are trying to, if you're saying that they will try to curb, criticism, I don't think, then there are courts of law also. Then you can, refuse to adhere to that. And it's like very plain and simple, it's not going to be a very clandestine kind of operation that the government is going to tell you to take that down. It's going to be put on their website, okay. And in general, that people have to, take it down. So the government would, attract a lot of criticism if they will try to do that. And I don't think so, that they will be trying to do that. But the fact of the matter is that we need regulation of, fake content. We need to ensure that fake content, doesn't spread. And a beginning has to be made at least. I'm not saying what government is doing is foolproof and perfect.
Right.
But at least a beginning has to be made. And as then, we will move ahead. The government will make the changes. We should have, I think, that much of faith in the government.
In fact, on the issue of an oversight or a governing mechanism, judicial oversight, right to appeal, what the minister has told me, N.S. Nappanai, I'm coming to you because you understand these rules very well. What the minister is telling me very categorically is that earlier these platforms had sweeping protection. No matter what they published, nobody could drag them to court, and whether they kept their information online or not. Now the rule is that if something has been deemed fake, it is your responsibility to take it out. If you feel you don't want to take it off, then you are only open to legislation. Don't you think that is indeed the fair way to go about it? Instead of the government mandatorily asking it to take it down and then the platforms going to court, now they're saying you use your discretion, but you will just not have protection under Indian laws. Indian citizens will have protection under Indian laws. Do you think then there is indeed an oversight, a judicial oversight provided for?
There seems to be a lot of misapprehensions here, which I will I'll try and resolve very, very quickly because we have very limited time. I'm not here to give a detailed opinion.
Sure.
But first and foremost, it's incorrect to say that under the extant laws as it was before the intermediary guidelines, which came in, the new intermediary guidelines of 2021 came in, or for that matter, the new amendments that have come, even under the Parent Act, which is 79, it's explicitly set out that if an intermediary fails to comply with 79(3)(b), then they lose their immunity. And 3B was for guidelines, which it included guidelines set out by the central government.
Yes.
So it would not be correct to say that they somehow had this sweeping immunity earlier and that we need curbs for it now. It was only a matter of implementing the curbs which were already there in the Parent Act. Secondly, the issue really here is not about regulating fake news or false news. So I beg to differ with the earlier speaker who was talking about that we have to make a beginning. We already have. The intermediary guidelines of 2021 has already captured the fact of regulating against dissemination of fake news.
Yes.
We have a provision which already reads that if somebody knowingly or intentionally communicates any information which is patently false or misleading in nature but is perceived to be a fact, then it has to be taken down. The issue today is not about regulation for combating fake news. We already have that.
Yes, the issue is the central body which will now deem news about itself fake. Actually, that's the new thing.
No, the new thing, no. That's what I wanted to clarify. The new thing is not about this. You already have a regulation to combat fake news.
No, I'm saying the new thing that the government has announced.
Central government deciding what is fake.
Exactly. So that's the issue I'm coming to.
I'm saying that my decision will be final. My concern with this new addition is it completely lacks due process. If you want a restriction, it has to be as per Article 19(2). If it violates Article 19(2), it is unconstitutional. So when we talk about the proportionality of a law or regulation, it has to be tested on the anvil of what constitutionally amounts to reasonable restriction.
Okay, so
and that reasonable restriction presupposes that if you're going to restrain my free speech, you will set out not only the grounds on which you will restrain it, but also the process through which you will ensure fair play before my speech is restrained. All of this is missing from the new edition. So we should not mix up the narrative about protecting against fake news because you already have the provision for it. You can't mix it up with the fact of whether unilateral action can be undertaken by the central government. And you rightly pointed out, by the central government, for the central government and of the central government.
Yes.
Right? You can't be a judge in your own case. And therefore, then what is the due process you're bringing in to ensure that it is not for others to say you're wrong and run to court? On the face of it, it should be a regulation which will ensure fair play.
Okay, but here's what I have a query, and RP Singh of the BJP can come in again. Here's where I have a query. The new body.
Please.
Yes, Mahimaji, the new regulation is of information that is published about the central government. The government is saying that the social media platforms told them that we need a reliable fact checker to tell us what is right or wrong, and therefore, since the government has the authority to check the data or the information about the central government, a government body has been made for it. So that's what the government is saying. Who else could have verified or checked that information? That's what they're saying. Only they have the authority to cross-check whether what is published about the central government is right or wrong. Not other news, just what is pertaining to the central government. Yes, Mahima, you wanted to come in, then I'll go across to RP Singh.
Yeah, please. Thank you. I was going to say that the BJP spokesperson earlier pointed out to Mr. Rahul Gandhi not producing evidence. And let me just say that yesterday the Supreme Court has given a stern warning to the government of India about the principles of open and natural justice when it has said that you cannot come to the court with an argument about national security, in the Media One case. This is the news piece I'm referring to from today's Indian Express.
Yes.
And, the Supreme Court, they make an argument about national security without producing an evidence. So, yes, Mr. Singh's argument, contention must be undertaken by the BJP very much, because they are the ones who keep on making claims and, allegations without any proof there. And let me just say that the, first post editor, respected panelist, co-panelist here, had pointed out to the Editors Guild of India being a biased itinerary, entity. Now, this is a game of convenience that we are playing today, Shivani. I mean, the very institution which had a credibility earlier, now because it doesn't suit the narrative of the ruling regime, so we can conveniently say that it's against the functioning of the government.
Can I quickly take that to a BJP representative, because I have limited time? I'll give Napinaya and Arunanand one more opportunity as well. RP Singh, please respond. As Napinaya is saying that actually there is no process of natural justice. The central government, whether it likes something or not, can decide what is right and what is wrong, and who's going to cross-check that? So it's actually, as she said, a move for the central government, by the central government, of the central government. There is no other, no other process allowed here. You can deem something fake, even if it's not.
Well, you can go to RTI and dig it out, whether it's fake or not. I'm shocked. Such people with such good backgrounds, with such illustrious background, they are talking about such things. If there's something fake and government says this is the data we have, tomorrow you say 5,000 people killed in Jammu Kashmir. As Rahul Gandhi said after removing of section 370-35A, government has to produce a document and say this is fake. And if it is government is saying wrong, there's the RTA, there are 10 more modes than me to counter check that. But government, if the social media company says that we need some authentic agency to ensure that whatever is being said is right or wrong. So government can only tell whether whatever is being said about the government is right or wrong. And other people have right to go to through RTI, dig out and then find out what government is saying right or wrong. But just brushing it aside, saying no, government is pushing the agenda or government will throttle the freedom of press. No, not at all.
Okay.
That agency has all the right to keep carrying on the same. But then that advantage of section 79 of being intermediary will be over, and
so
then they will have to face the tune of law as probably you or the news houses faces.
Okay, can I take that to Napinai one more time? I'll give a final word to Arun Anand as well.
Let me make one point. So in this regime, basically, the opposition parties, if they have a problem, they should go to the court and not challenge the government through the agencies. If the media agencies have a problem, they should go to the court. So the government wants absolute immunity. They want sweeping powers over democracy, and that's why we say
I strongly no, I never said that. I said no. CNN cannot carry news against the government. They have all the right. Newspaper publishers news against the government. They have all the right, but they don't have that advantage of section 79. Tomorrow someone can go to court and challenge that, or can go for defamation against the publication also.
Okay, can I just come in? Napinai, two very quick questions. I have only about a minute left. Who else can decide whether an information... Once again, please listen to my question. Who else can decide whether an information about a central government is right or wrong? Is it not indeed a complex issue where only the central government can say whether this information is right or wrong?
Very well, you may say so, but then where is the check and balance with respect to what is being said is right or not?
Okay.
So I'm just going to step back and just point out to two things. The narrative here is not about a political issue, and therefore it is dehors which government is in power or not. The issue is about constitutionality. The constitution lays down how and in what manner a law or regulation can be laid down.
Okay.
So I'd like to draw your attention and also that of the government to the Shreya Singh's judgment. We talk about 66A, which was struck down. But it is very important to look at the portion which upheld 69A and some of the rules under 79 also. So therefore, when you look at that portion of the judgment, it talks about what amounts to proportionality. And if you look at the rules which were laid down in 69A, which the Supreme Court upheld, there was a process through which
one by one.
Government agency could take down or block content. But there is a review process. There are multiple layers of checks and balances that are
on that involved. Is my second question to you. Once again, I have limited time. On that is my second question to you. The government is saying very clearly, we are not asking you to remove that content. You are free to keep that content. Only now you become open to the legal process in India. Is that not fair then? Then there will be a review of that information in court.
When you're putting a penal provision on somebody on the basis of inaction also, that penal provision also has to be as per due process, no, Shivani?
But all of us are open to that penal provision in this country. It's only social media platforms. No, once again, only social media platforms. Napinai, only social media platforms seemed to have this this protection. All of us are anyways open to that
Not
penal
social
provision.
media platform, Shivani, all intermediaries.
All intermediaries. So yes. So how is this unfair to them? All of us are open to that penal provision to begin with.
All intermediaries are subject to the limitations with respect to the safe harbor that is extended to them. So when you are giving a protection to a class of persons or entities, and you're saying that for certain action or inaction it will be taken away, that process of taking away the protection also has to be as per due process. And that due process has to comply with the constitutional
But those are
mandate.
guidelines that have already been set earlier. Those
You
9
and I
areas
may not
where the
agree with
social
what
media
is
platforms
permissible
or
or not.
intermediaries will not have any protection. That has already been in the public domain and actually has not been challenged.
In the manner it is meant to be. No?
Okay. Now, Pinay, I want to go across to Arun Anand as well. Arun Anand, is this then going to be open to some sort of legal scrutiny, you feel? The government's new rules?
No, I don't think so. And another thing is, I disagree with my co-panelists. It is not a question of constitutionality. The bigger problem is that right now, the biggest problem is misinformation, which goes on and which affects every, strata of the society. So whenever these kind of things happen, we often tend to take, this thing of, constitutionality. It is not a question of that. It is a question of handling misinformation. The government is trying to bring in a system. Some people agree with it, some people don't agree with it. Let the system be in place. If you don't agree with it and if it violates the constitutional norms, the Supreme Court anyway is going to strike it down. And if it doesn't, then it means basically that the government has put in a right system in the place and there are robust mechanisms within the bureaucracy. See, the government is only not run by politicians. There is a bureaucracy there and there are checks and balances already there. So I think it's a move in the right direction. And last but not the least, see, the thing is that if you start all your arguments with the premises that this government is definitely going to misuse it, so you have to have that sense of proportionality in terms of that don't take that premise. I'm not saying don't take that. I'm not saying take that premise that this government will do everything right, but don't take that premise also that this government is going to do everything wrong. It is going to misuse it, and the intention is bad.
All right, I have to leave it at that. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. We will, of course, continue to look at how this plays out over the days that come. The IT Ministry also yesterday released new rules for online gaming that have brought in much needed clarity and relief to the sector. These new rules now prohibit any game that involves betting or wagering of money. The government has also opted for a self-regulation model to regulate online gaming sector. So these SROs, self-regulating organizations, will be composed of industry members, gamers, other stakeholders and will decide whether a game is addictive or harmful and should be allowed or not. Here are some more details of the new rules. So games with real money where you pay to play will not be permitted if they aid gambling, but they are not banned otherwise, as many of these have been deemed as games of skill. Games that involve betting or wagering of any kind are outrightly banned. KYC verification is mandatory for all online gaming. Online games will also have to register now with this self-regulatory body. There will be 3 such bodies to begin with and more will come up. Games cleared by this body will then be allowed to legally operate in India. But a vast chunk of the gaming apps have been deemed to be okay. I spoke to the Minister of State Rajeev Chandrasekhar on this issue as well and why the government has chosen to go the self-regulation route. Here's more of that conversation. You've chosen to go the self-regulation route via the self-regulation organizations. Can I understand from you why you've chosen this approach and how successful do you think this can be? For example, in the social media sphere itself, you found that self-regulation doesn't always work. So why did you go this route?
No, social media does not have, Shivani, any self-regulation. Self-regulation is not about me regulating myself. Self-regulating organization in this context means it is not the government that is regulating the ecosystem. And why that is very important is online gaming, like many parts of the digital economy, are driven by innovation, driven by young innovators. And we certainly don't want government to be regulating innovation, government to be regulating what young Indians do across the length and breadth of this country. So therefore, we have said, We are open to, and we said this in the context of social media as well, but they did not respond to that invitation of the government. We are open to having industry and other stakeholders of that space come together, create a credible institution that will in turn regulate that particular space. So, in the online gaming example, the rules now today have sharply, clearly defined what are no-go areas for gaming. So we have said where wagering and betting is involved, they will not be permissible in the Indian internet. And so what is permissible will be determined by, and as a consequence, what is impermissible will be determined by these SROs. And the SROs will not be only industry, it will have students, educators, it will have child interest protectors, it will have gamers. So it will have a broad-based representation of people. We have designed the SRO and the rules to be an organization that will have the create capacity and capability to be able to take decisions about what is permissible and what is not permissible in terms of online gaming.
Now, a lot of these real money games, which you have allowed and have put into the domain of the SROs, they have been opposed because of their addiction tendencies, and also, of course, the fact that people do put in money and there is other concerns involved. So how will these SROs decide whether some is harmful or not? Isn't that very vague?
No, Shwani. Look, we are at early stages of creating these kind of capabilities and capacities in these organizations. So we are designing these organizations, and we are making sure that the representation within these organizations is broad-based enough that it includes educators, it includes child psychologists, it includes people who are outside the industry to look at issues of addiction. So we have made sure that there will be a terms of reference to the SRO that make it very clear that the conditions that will involve failing a game or will involve a game failing to pass the test will be if there is wagering and betting, if it causes harm to a child in any way, including addiction, and it involves harm to any gamer. So we are basically very clear, if you fail these tests of wagering or user harm or child addiction and child harm, then that game will not be a permissible game. The game cannot be certified as permissible by the SRO, which is to say that a small slice of the online gaming industry is going to be prohibited in India, but the large expanse of games, including real money games that don't involve wagering, is open now for innovation, for investments, for growth and expansion.
I want to ask you, will these rules now cover entire India, or will states still be able to come up with their own legislation?
Yeah, no, surely I think it makes it not necessary for the states, because different states are trying to regulate betting and gambling, including the online. And all states know you cannot regulate online in a state, because if you even outlaw online gambling in Tamil Nadu, it is very possible that in Kerala somebody hosts a website and there's nothing to prevent somebody in Tamil Nadu from accessing their website. So therefore, anything online, anything internet has to be regulated by the government of India, and that the powers for that are given by the IT Act. So therefore, this kind of clarity, this kind of a framework, these IT rules make it not necessary for states to worry about their citizens falling prey to these kind of platforms, because those platforms are never going to be permitted now to be on the Indian internet as a consequence of these rules.
Well, we'll of course see how these SROs evolve, and what kind of gaming they deem addictive.
Yeah, no, I certainly today when I met the industry said that it should be our joint mission to, as government and the industry and the other stakeholders, to make these SROs really world class, really have capability, capacity, and to have build the credibility that these institutions can really decide what is wrong and decide what is right in a manner that is fair, transparent, and consistent.
I have final two questions. When will a central law in this regard come? Something that has been mentioned by the minister himself.
Look, I don't know if there is a need for a central law on online gaming. It is not clear to me that there is any need for such a law. But is there a central law for betting and gambling? That is certainly worth considering, and I think the Home Ministry is seized of that matter, and that is where that matter resides as a government of India. It is a matter that lies with the Home Ministry, and I'm sure they will take a view on whether there needs to be an omnibus law for India in on matters of gambling and betting.
On the issue of gambling and betting, my final question, sir, that in many countries it is allowed. It is a very prosperous business as well. Why is it, what is the Indian government's view that this is not to be allowed in India still? That there is no rethink on betting and gambling per se?
Look, we are a democracy and we respond to, India is a democracy and we respond to what citizens of our state and our citizens of our country want. It is certainly a strong case that in India, most people think of betting and gambling as a social evil, that they consider it as a harm. They certainly don't want it. And that is how the government will respond, because it is not about me having a view, Shivani, or you having a view about the merits or demerits of betting and gambling. It is certainly this government, more than any other government, is very responsive to what our people want and what the people think is appropriate and good and bad. So currently, I think there is a very, very significant consensus in India that online betting, online gambling, online wagering represents evil, user harm, social evil, and therefore we have responded the way we have responded.
All right. Some clarity for the gaming industry, but certainly as it stands, betting and gambling are not becoming legal in India anytime soon. I have to shift into a very short break now. On the other side, we have a special report from Bihar. Days after violent clashes during Ram Navami in Sasaram, leaving families of both Hindu and Muslim communities bereft of their homes and valuables. Here's a special report from on ground.
He just explained that that's available in civic textbooks also. Why should we say that he's revealing administrative decisions?
The governor is totally unaware of the legal procedures. We wonder who made him the governor. It's like any elementary, even a first-year law student will know that the governor cannot withhold a bill forever, and he does not have the power to say no to a bill sent by the Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly. That is what he said. The problem is, this governor has been sent by the Prime Minister and the Home Minister to destabilize the Tamil Nadu government. They are totally, both of them are jealous of the political goodwill created by our leader, Mr. M.K. Stalin, the Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister. They are scared that he's trying to form a coalition to sink the BJP. The BJP will be sunk by us. So that is the reason why they want to stall all the administrative capabilities of the state government. That is why the governor is acting in this way.
Sir, just tomorrow, the PM will be inaugurating the Chennai airport. It looks like the war of words against the governor is now escalating, and now you're making statements against the centre as well.
Yeah, it's like when he is acting not for the constitution, but as per the diktats of the RSS and the BJP, definitely the central government should take responsibility. I am asking, in which BJP rule states that governors act like this? Act like a novice, speak like a novice, without knowing the legal provisions. I pity the aspirants, the IAS and IPS aspirants who went there listening to his advice. Probably I should request them not to listen to what he is speaking, because this man does not know the law.
Sir, but he had said, he had made the same point that you had made, that the governor can return a bill, but if that assembly passes it again, he has no option but to pass it. That's what he had said, that he has to assent to the bill if the assembly passes it for the second time.
So, okay, he knows that, but is he doing that? He's not doing that. The online rummy bill has been sent back to him by the Tamil Nadu State Assembly. Why is he sleeping on it? To protect whose interest? Let us also not forget that this is the same gentleman who had met the representatives of the online rummy companies. Does he set a good example for all those IAS and IPS officers? Who's going to be benefited if the online rummy bill is not coming to force? It is those companies, and he's meeting those people, and he's keeping those bills for 4 months. Is this the example the IAS and IPS officers want to follow?
Thank you very much for joining us and sharing your opinion. Continuing with that DMK and the governor standoff, and we have some more breaking news coming in. Now the governor made a remark, that same speech Governor R.N. Ravi had delivered at the Raj Bhavan recently. He made a remark saying withholding means bill is dead, which is decent language for rejected. He was speaking about the language used when you withhold a bill. That's something that he had said, and the CM has slammed this remark. The CM MK Stalin's tweet on Governor Bill is dead remark. He says, I strongly condemn Tamil Nadu Governor R.N. Ravi's act against his oath of office and against state welfare. Governor's remarks today are not good for his position. He said among students that if a bill is passed in the assembly that is withheld by the governor, it means it's dead. Withhold means rejection in decent language. It is against the constitution to reveal administrative decisions in a public forum. This is what the Tamil Nadu CM MK Stalin had tweeted. Going across to my colleague Purnima Murli. Purnima, can you tell us, did the governor specify this was against that online gambling bill, which is that current tussle between the state government and the governor, or was he just explaining the language used regarding bills and how bills work in general?
Well, in fact, this was a question and answer session followed by governor's speech, and one of the questions asked was about the language, and to that the governor had responded that it is a decent language to say that instead of saying that it's been rejected, it says that withholding is a better usage, and that if the governor withholds the nod for a bill, it means the bill is dead, which also is politically significant because, the DMK has sent a delegation to submit a memorandum to the president seeking the governor's withdrawal, citing that many bills, including the bill on NEET, have all been pending before the governor, and the governor has not really taken action on the bills that have been passed by the Tamil Nadu government, which have impacted people, including the online bill, including the bill on NEET. All these bills were pending before the governor, but the governor, in fact, said that he is yet to make a decision, and all these are politically significant, which is why governor's statement has not gone down well with the DMK, because DMK time and again says that there are many bills that have been sent to the governor that are sitting before the governor, and the governor has not yet decided. And at the time, the governor makes it clear that it's as well as saying that the bill has been rejected, and that's a decent language. That's the word that's coming in from the governor, which is why Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and other DMK stalwarts have condemned the governor's statement on this as well.
We are here at Sherganj Madina Masjid, and at this place on 1st April at around 7 p.m. an explosion took place that injured 6 people severely. They had to be shifted to BHU in Varanasi, and then an FIR was lodged for the explosion. We are at ground zero, where I'll ask my camera person Shaboob Alam to show the remnants of the rampage that happened after the blast. We can see here a slipper and some material in orange and yellow color. This can be explosive, although the forensic team has taken the samples of the explosive, but there are few evidences that can still be seen. The part of the tin, spoon, explosives, and also some empty bottles. This is Jalalpur area of Sasaram, and this house particularly suffered the most of the brunt of the rioters on 1st of April, and there was ruckus all over, and arson was created between the two communities here, and this house was particularly doused and it was set on fire. We can see the kind of destructions that was done on the 1st of April, and after that the resident of this house had no option than to leave. We can see the remnants of the households being burnt.
तल्ला पर चढ़ गई थी मैं, चिल्ला रही हूँ अल्लाह मेरा मकान जल रहा है, अल्लाह अपने शौहर के पास फोन कर रही हूँ, प्रशासन से बोलो, पुलिस से बोलो, मेरा मकान मतलब कि बुताए, मेरा मकान जल रहा है। लेकिन प्रशासन हंस रहा था, वो कुछ सुन भी नहीं कर रहा था, वो चिल्ला रहे थे, रो रहे थे, बचाओ मेरा घर, बचाओ मेरा घर, जल रहा। लेकिन प्रशासन मेरा घर को ना बचाया, मेरा पूरा जल कर राख हो गया।
The fact here is that people from both the communities suffered losses, and we are again here in another house which was burnt. It was vandalized. क्या हुआ था थोड़ा सा बताएंगे उस दिन?
सर हम के कवाड़ी बंद रहे ना, तो कवाड़ी पे ईटा बड़ा बड़ा पुठी चलाते रहे, तब हम के खोलने जाना, छिटकेली को बरल ना, तो घर में घुस के आग धरात लन जा।
क्या बोल रहे थे?
बोल रहे हैं तो ताजा के मुआयम जी यही में।
क्यों आए थे वो लोग?
अब हम की नहीं जानते काहे का के झगड़ा रहे का के ना।
आपको रोक दिया गया जाने से वहाँ पे?
देखिए, रामनवमी के समय में बिहार में कई इस तरह के शहरों में घटनाएं हुई है, जिसमें कि निर्दोष लोगों पर पत्थरबाजी की गई, शांतिपूर्ण जुलूस को रोकने का प्रयास किया, आगजनी की घटनाएं हुई, वाहन जलाए गए, दुकानों को जलाया गया, और आम आदमी कहीं न कहीं घरों में छिपा रहा, लोगों की रोजी रोटी चली गई, और सरकार सिर्फ दावत खाने में लगी रही।
Police have deployed various companies. Around 3 companies of paramilitary forces have been deployed in every nook and corner of the city. Around 1,500 policemen of Bihar Police and riot control forces, BSAP Jawans, SSB Jawans, they all have been deployed at the sensitive zones. Although the internet services are shut, schools and shops are opening in the city. I would like to ask you about the present situation and what is the role of your administration, which somehow manage to control the situation.
देखिए, वर्तमान में तो स्थिति काफ़ी शांतिपूर्ण है, और आप जाके देखेंगे दुकानें जो है बिल्कुल समय पे जो है ओपन हो रही हैं। शुरुआती समय में एक भ्रम था कि शाम 7 बजे तक दुकानें ओपन रहेगी, तो फिर लाउड स्पीकर माइक के माध्यम से भी सोशल मीडिया तो करे अभी जो है रन नहीं कर रहा है।
The administration has clarified that that there were rumors, many rumors were running at that time, and people should not pay attention to those rumors. And they also talked about the role of media, and media reporting should be a very in a peaceful manner and unbiased manner, and so that there is a peace and harmony within the communities of the area. With camera person Shabu Alam, this is Saurav reporting for CNN News 18 from Sasaram.
This is a big announcement for us right here on CNN News 18. A historic feat for our channel, a historic week for our channel, as 50 weeks of news dominance.
It's not just on linear television that CNN News 18 is #1. We are #1 today on YouTube, #1 on Facebook, and number 1 on the BARC TRP ratings for linear television. The team that is bringing this together is a very, very young team. I think it's the fruit of the effort that we have put in. The way different people in this young team stepped up when the challenge presented itself, or when the opportunity presented itself, I think that was incredible. We want to thank all our viewers, because I don't think we could have achieved this without your support, your love, and your commitment to the kind of journalism, the kind of news stories that we put out there.
I'm here to give my support to my dear uncle and my respected Bhumai sir. I'm here to render my support. Yes, of course, I agree upon our leadership. Mr.